Welcome back. This is Reed Riggs presenting video B, all about the Chinese character de. So let's look into the history of this character. So here we see it as represented by the sun and a spoon, which is just a picture that we've drawn nowadays to represent in a graphic compendium of Chinese characters. That's the dictionary I'm using, a graphic compendium of Chinese characters. The sun and a spoon. And what this represents is brightness. And so this is the oldest character that we know of. This is the Zhuan form of writing. And we see a sun on one side, and this squiggly thing makes a spoon. And up here, in this information about the character, it's saying that this is a composition of two parts with meaning. So oftentimes what happens in modern Chinese characters is we have a part on the left and a part on the right. And what often happens in modern Chinese characters is the part on the left will represent the meaning for the character, and the part on the right will represent the sound. Sometimes that's reversed. Sometimes it's something on top represents the meaning and what's underneath represents sound. So what we're saying is there's a spatial arrangement where one part represents the sound and the other part represents the meaning, but not in the case of the character de here. It's just two parts that each have meaning, a sun and a spoon. Now, according to this information over here, the sun represented brightness and freshness, the spoon represented a spoon, and together it represented the sun illuminating the spoon so that we could use it. And this whole thing together, this whole character here, represented brightness. Now, that character which represented brightness way back in the day was pronounced the same as whatever people were saying to mean possession. For example, Dave's bag, or Jim's, or Mrs. Johnson's door. And so it's a loan character. They borrowed this character from its original meaning, which was brightness, to then mean possession. So we're going to look at that in a moment. This is the Zhuan script, the Li script, where the penmanship is a little bit curvy, and the modern Kai script here. So let's look at de in its broken down specifics. Here's the Kai font again that we just saw in that previous graphic. That was the most modern one. We use the Kai font today in classes where we want to type in a more cultural looking way, where it looks like fancy brush strokes. But in newspapers and books, the font usually used in any sort of formal text would be this Song font. And the Hei font is also nice because it has this sort of thick block format. The pinyin is D-E, no tone mark. The structure is left-right. The traditional character is the same as the simplified character. The stroke order we saw in the previous video when it was written by hand. You can also see the stroke order at nciku.com. The radical is the character white. Again, that's in modern Chinese. We have this stroke up here, which represents this whole character, meaning white. But if we take off that stroke, then it's the character for sun. Okay, and in modern Chinese, it's not sun, it's white. In the classical Zhuan form, it was a sun. It had no stroke on top. The meaning is apostrophe S in English, so that would be like Mrs. Johnson's phone. It means it marks possession. It also marks adjective. So if something is red, we'd put this character de after the color red. If something is green or big or heavy, any sort of adjective that describes things, we put this de after it as well. And in our next video, we will read along with sentences as read to us by native speakers of Chinese. So go ahead and proceed to the next video and check out my website at reedriggs.com.